My message to Jewish Australians is that your fellow Australians stand with you tonight in condemning this act of terror, in condemning this outrage. I've had a number of conversations with people tonight. One of the Jewish community leaders said to me that we know where anti-Semitism leads, that it leads to an attack on everyone, not just Jewish Australians.
And that's the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, earlier this morning on the terrorist attack directed at a Hanukkah celebration being held on Bondi Beach in Sydney that left at least 11 people dead and 29 others wounded. Joining me now with the reaction and steps ahead, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, a staunch supporter of Israel. Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. You heard the Prime Minister, your reaction to what has taken place.
I would say, yeah, of course, we should all universally condemn all of these things. I mean, just imagine two people, organized to try to kill as many Jews as possible. And thankfully that stopped. But I mean, almost 30 people wounded, 12, I'm reading 12 people killed. I mean, just for celebrate a holiday right now. I mean, it's astonishing. And now, like, you witnessed that in Australia for years, these massive kinds of anti-Israel protests again and again and again in those kinds of places. It's like, those things kind of penetrate. And now, so that's where we're at. I mean, how can't we just defend, a lot of these views and not just call it what it is? Anti-Semitism is a worldwide scourge, and it's constantly demonstrated to be deadly, and it keeps manifest itself in these things, just like what's happened now in Australia, too.
That's right. And Senator, a moment ago, Lindsey Graham was with me, your colleague from South Carolina, who said a warning to anyone who is trying to say that there should be a Palestinian state. If you create a Palestinian state, what you will get are more killings of Jews. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's an absolute betrayal for Israel and for the worldwide Jewish community, like whether it's France or Australia or any of these nations, our Western allies now calling for a two-state solution when Hamas refuses to disarm and are actively trying to kill Jews. I can't imagine why anybody would do that at this point. That is not the appropriate reward after 10/7 and this thing. So I absolutely support Israel's continue to take out leaders from Hamas and Hezbollah as well, too. They need to be held accountable. And I do hope they can work together with the American forces in Syria to take out the people responsible for taking 2 American lives in Syria just yesterday now, too.
And, of course, you've been a staunch supporter of Israel for so long, going against some of your colleagues' sentiments. What about this strong pro-Palestinian movement within the Democrat Party? Why?
Yeah, again, look at the kind of language and look at the races, for the Senate in 2026 cycle. One of the signature issues is being anti-Israel and saying these incredibly anti-Israel kinds of views on Israel, and it's super, super critical. And now people that were just recently elected, like in New York as well, too, that's, call it what it is. And I can't imagine why that's becoming more and more part of my party's platform.
Is there something that you believe you can do to affect change in the Senate, sir?
Well, what I can do is I can control my voice and my vote, and that's been unapologetically pro-Israel. And now when you see horrible, horrible things like what happened in Australia yesterday, and now tonight, I'm going to be the honored guest for the 3 years in a row for a Hanukkah celebration here in the Pittsburgh area. So I'm always, always proud to stand with Israel and the Jewish community. They constantly, increasingly now have targets in their backs just for being guilty of just being Jews. And I can't imagine what that must feel like. And I also can't imagine why so many parts of people in my party continue to back away or to kind of deflect and having a unified view on where we at now whether it's like in Gaza or condemning these kinds of horrific acts of terrorism.
Well, I mean, look, President Trump recently named the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. I mean, are there things you would like to see that President Trump can do more of in terms of aligning with Israel, which he has been the greatest friend in the White House that Israel has ever had? But do you want to see anything different or more from the White House?
Well, I absolutely do agree with the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm the only Democrat as a co-sponsor of that with my colleague from Texas, Ted Cruz.
Right.
To identify exactly what it is, and then attack these kinds of organizations that help fund this kinds of terror across the globe, and that call it what it is and reject this kinds of radical Islam. Just the way I watched Senator Graham's interview, and I agree with virtually everything that he said about those kinds of circumstances. That should be a strong bipartisan kinds of issue right now. And if you look, like the young people in our nation have turned their back entirely against Israel. And that's the social media. That's the scourge. That's where anti-Semitism breeds. And that's piped right into their screens all across our nation.
What should we be thinking about the homeland right now from your role on the Homeland Security Committee, Senator? What should we be aware of? Are you worried that we could see some kind of a copycat attack happening in America as well after these incidents?
I mean, hopefully not. But for me, it can come homegrown too. I mean, now here in Pittsburgh, the Tree of Life massacre, it took 11 Jewish lives where they showed up at the Tree of Life synagogue and they executed people. This is part of the point, and that was back in 2018. And that scourge of anti-Semitism continues to grow, and that intensity is accelerated on social media. And now, for me, I'm proud to stand with Israel, and I can't imagine why anyone in my party can't have the same kinds of views. And now here, you witness what happened in Australia. People are targeted just simply for being Jews.
Yes, and we just heard the story of the rabbi, an emissary who sent the letter to the prime minister, just asking him to not betray the Jews by coming up with a Palestinian state, and he was murdered, along with the others. Senator, it's the holidays. We are looking to inspire peace. What should we be doing to come together?
I hope everybody would universally condemn this horrific terrorist attack day, but I also think we must be honest as well too. Why are we talking about a two-state solution when Hamas refuses to disarm and to de-radicalize their organization? It's astonishing to me. And now Hezbollah is also now trying to rearm itself too. And now I'm the only Democrat that proudly celebrates when Israel takes out people that are part of and that are driving that process now too. That's what's necessary, and I absolutely stand proud with Israel after this.
And these are common sense sentiments that you're making. Senator, you have been a beautiful voice of reason, and we so appreciate you. Thanks very much for being here this morning, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Thank you.
All right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.